folks, today we have a special episode and a special guest.
Great to be here.
So we're going to talk about 5 top tips that enabled me to gain about 500 rating points.
Sounds good. Let's get started.
Here we go. Number 5. Respect your opponent.
See, that's something I never did much of. I always thought that I was the most brilliant, unstoppable. My opponents are just in my way, you know. But now I know better. Or I should say, he knows better now.
A lot of times we see a brilliancy, or we see a swindle, or we see a tricky move, and we don't give our opponent the benefit of the doubt that perhaps he can find a counter, perhaps he can find an escape, perhaps he can find the refutation. And so it just looks like an exciting move, it looks like a great move, and we just play it. Especially if our opponent is perhaps lower rated than we are. And this is a very bad idea, and it's cost me a lot of games. So one way to go about this is to actually look at the position from the point of view of your opponent. So if you're playing online, you can flip the board so that you're looking at it from your opponent's side. Or if you're playing in a live tournament over the board, you can get up, walk around, and when you come back to your board, come back from your opponent's side and look at the board, you know, from his perspective before you sit down. And this actually helps you, I mean, it helps psychologically. It also helps with, you know, just visualizing the board differently. If there's a counter, if there's a refutation, try to find the best moves for your opponent, you know, before you make your move. Number 4. Number 4 is Blumenfeld's rule. This is, it might seem so obvious, but it's something that costs people lots of games. Take a few seconds. Look for blunders before you make your move. Look for checkmate in 1. Look for checkmate in 2. Look for hanging pieces. Look for drop pieces. Look for basic tactics. Look for unprotected pieces. You know, just basic, simple stuff. How many times have you, after making a move, like 2 seconds later, you're like, oh my goodness, this queen was hanging. Or, oh my goodness, I had mate in 1. The goal is not to let that happen. If you just take a few seconds. That's a few seconds.
And I will say, playing different time controls definitely would help. One difference I've noticed between myself and him is I used to play a lot of blitz, 5 minute, 5 minute, 5 minute. But he slowed down and he plays mostly rapid, 10 minute or 15-10. And it helps. It helps. It gives you more time, and it allows you to obey Blumenfeld's rule. You know. So that's number 4. Number 3. Tactics, tactics, tactics. I know you've heard it from other people. I know you've heard it countless times, but practicing tactics is indispensable to your chess improvement. And one way to actually do this more effectively is actually to do it as a puzzle racer or a puzzle battle, where you're playing against other people, you know, and against time to see how many puzzles you can solve correctly. Lichess and chess.com both have this feature. And when you do it that way, it seems like you're playing chess, but you're also sharpening your tactical skills. So there it is. Tactics is something that I never practiced. I felt that I was a natural, but no, far from it. Practicing tactics is very beneficial.
Number 2, learn how the pieces actually move. So I used to look at pieces or the movement of pieces in a one-dimensional way. For example, rooks moved in a straight line. And I would not consider the other dimension, right? I would only see the rook moving down the file, and I'd fail to recognize that, across the rank, there's an attack, or across the rank, there's a threat.
I can identify.
And so another example, of a very good example, is actually the knight. The knight has been taught as moving in an L shape. This is absolutely wrong. The knight moves radially. And if you speak in mathematical terms, the locus of points is 8 points around the knight that it can jump to. And that's if it's in the center, of course. So looking at the full range of motion of pieces whenever you look at the board goes a very long way in improving your ability, your strength.
I must say that that's probably one of the bigger tips. It may seem very obvious, as he mentioned, but it goes a long way. It transforms the way you actually visualize the board.
Number 1, visualization. Visualization is indispensable to the correct evaluation and consequently to proper calculation. Bobby Fischer puts it this way: you want to play the wrong moves in your head, not on the board. And so how are you going to know if a move is wrong if you can't tell the evaluation of the line at the end or through the calculation? And so one way to actually help with this is to play blindfold. Online you can actually play blindfold. There's a blindfold setting in most of the servers, or you can play online, or you can play over the board blindfold, with your friends. Initially, you won't be able to finish a whole game. You may be able to play 5-6 moves, and then eventually you might be able to finish a game with a checkmate, or even play through an end game. And it's not absolutely necessary to be good at playing blindfold, but just having the ability to play a reasonable number of moves actually helps with exercising the muscles for visualization. Because looking at a line or calculating lines 20 moves down the road makes absolutely no sense if you don't know whether it's winning, losing, or neutral. So there you have it, my 5 tips for gaining hundreds of points, hundreds of rating points, improving your chess ability, and getting better. My coach always said, whenever we finished a lesson, are you going to put it to practice? Did this help you? Was this useful? And so I hope that you found one of these tips, at least one of these tips, useful. And I'm going to ask you the same question. Will you put it to use? All the best.